Hello, I'm Richard Gisbert, and you're at The Listening Post. This week, Haiti.
So, pretty dramatic scene.
The humanitarian crisis that put news organizations to the test.
It's really a huge technical challenge.
Google and China, can the two giants continue to do business together? Government-funded broadcasters in Britain and Germany can't get their signals into Iran.
So what's the big deal?
And the cartoon crooner, confused by MySpace.
10,000 friends ain't no rat pack.
3 million people in need of aid, 1.5 million of them homeless, and thousands of children left as orphans. The story of Haiti after the earthquake is a disaster on a colossal scale. The Caribbean country, whose people suffer from extreme poverty, makes news all the time, but seldom gets covered. It took an earthquake to get it into the headlines, and one of the ironies of the modern age is that the media could get live satellite pictures out of Haiti long before clean drinking water could be delivered to the people who need it. Our starting point this week is the earthquake and the challenges, successes, and shortcomings of the coverage.
Breaking news story tonight, a major earthquake has hit Haiti.
This is a very dangerous situation.
And tonight, a frantic rescue effort is underway with hundreds, perhaps thousands, buried.
There was something about this Haiti quake that felt like it was going to be significant.
Bodies are piling up in the streets of Haiti.
It was quite a big magnitude. It was near a big center of population and a very poor country.
The need for aid gets more desperate by the hour.
So we did feel fairly early on this was going to be a big story, and it's proved to be so.
This is a major event.
Of all the possible natural disasters, earthquakes are made for television. They play to the strengths of the medium.
There's very dramatic pictures, there's great suffering.
Without necessarily revealing the medium's weaknesses.
This woman lost 4 of her children.
There's a very easy idea of what's gone wrong and what needs to be done.
Thousands of people with nowhere to go.
Add to that, you have a state that has failed. It ticks all the boxes as far as news values go.
One of the news organizations that understood that best was CNN. The American network devoted huge resources to the Haiti story and hours of airtime to it. It said it had 15 correspondents on the ground, backed up by 60 support staff. It was committed to the story, as one would expect from an American news network.
The first 72 hours are critical.
Haiti is our neighbor. We have hundreds of thousands of Haitian Americans living in this country. We have thousands of Americans living in Haiti. And everybody is rightfully concerned and wants to be able to follow this story as closely as they can and find out what they can do to help. And I think that by and large, the American media has done a commendable job in trying to provide that coverage to their viewers.
So, pretty dramatic scene. It's drawn quite a crowd behind us here.
The size of the media contingent in Haiti is remarkable given how difficult it was to get there. The country's infrastructure had been smashed, its air traffic control capability crippled. Still, the world's media and aid agencies were flying in.
This is a perpetual battle in disasters like the earthquake in Haiti. Who gets in first? Who should be given the seat on the plane? Should a journalist be in there reporting on the problems and what needs to be done, or should that be reserved for another box of aid, another aid worker that could help people?
But with disasters of this size, both aid agencies and the people who report on them had to be there, and they needed each other.
Aid agencies are very keen to have media teams report what they're doing, whether it's pulling people from the rubble or that next stage of the relief effort, which is sustaining people. Because after all, they depend on donations and the goodwill of governments to fund their operations. It's more a situation of one feeding off the other. And certainly, journalists are also human beings, and we know our place in the framework.
We're living right on life's margins.
Some journalists doubled as aid workers. CNN anchor Anderson Cooper carried a young boy badly wounded in a food riot to safety.
He's clearly stunned and can't walk.
Security is just one of the issues news organizations faced on arrival in the quake zone.
It's really a huge technical challenge.
Covering this story is the logistical nightmare.
I think the biggest challenge is simply that there's very, very few means of communication here. The phone, cell phone, internet, none of that works here. We can text one another to coordinate our movements, but we can't really get any other information sources that most journalists are used to getting. So it's a pretty haphazard method of trying to stay on top of things.
It is hugely complicated. Earthquakes tend to happen in awkward places for foreign news desks. They happen in Haiti, where it's a complicated method of getting there, particularly when the airport's wiped out. How do you as a journalist get there, effectively report, and also eat, drink, live, find somewhere to be accommodated, and how do you make your team secure?
President Barack Obama has been highly visible throughout the Haiti story in various media. He wrote a cover story for Newsweek magazine on why Haiti matters. He went on television to tell Haitians help was on its way.
You will not be forsaken. You will not be forgotten.
And that the country that led the first successful slave revolt in the Western world deserved better than its poverty-stricken existence.
9 million people live here, the vast majority in poverty.
Throughout the reporting, there has been a lot of talk of poverty and the failure of the Haitian state.
The island, considered the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
But there has been little talk of why Haiti is so poor. After the slave revolt in 1804, Haiti was saddled with a crippling debt that took more than 100 years to pay. America, worried about its own slave population, refused to recognize Haiti. And more recently, international lenders have attached conditions to their loans that many people argue hurt Haiti more than they help. That kind of historical context has been largely absent from the coverage.
It is incumbent on journalists who are covering this story to try and understand the history of this country, the most successful slave rebellion in history that formed this country, and the unique place that it has amongst its neighbors in the Caribbean, and the long and tragic history of misrule, of dictatorship, and authoritarian rule. Those are all things that make up the story and put us in the place that Haiti is right now. So those are some of the things that journalists who are covering the story need to be aware of.
Haiti, a story that was tough for the news media to get to, logistically difficult to report on, and even more difficult to explain. Here's how our Global Village Voices see the media coverage of the crisis in Haiti.
Like the running of the bulls, the U.S. networks and their anchors were often running to Haiti even before the dust had settled to bring back the first images after this natural disaster. Of course, that's what news organizations do. But this time they have gone to the 3 Gs: grotesque, gruesome, and graphic depictions, things that they have shied away from before. They've never shown things like this from Afghanistan or Iraq in wars, but today they're showing it daily on television.
A crisis like this does not require journalists to dig into rubble and to stick their hands with a microphone under the rubble so that everyone back home can hear a child screaming. Do you hear that? Should I push my arm deeper into the rubble? And CNN, of course CNN wasn't the only one, but they were extremely illustrative in showing how you can prosecute these events.
If you'd like to get on the air as one of our Global Village Voices, we suggest you join the thousands of viewers who follow us on Facebook and Twitter. They use those sites to find out what stories we're working on so they can get with the program. Or you can just get in touch with us via email. We're waiting to hear from you at listeningpost@aljazeera.net. Time now for Listening Post Newsbites. The New York Times has confirmed it will begin charging its readers for access to the website by early 2011. Charging for online content is a contentious issue in the media industry. Leading the way is the Wall Street Journal, which has already adopted a metered charging system in which readers are allowed to read a certain limited number of articles for free before being asked to pay for a subscription. The Times said it is going to implement a similar business plan. However, it will not be the paper's first attempt. Back in 2005, the Times tried charging for certain premium content, but abandoned that model just 2 years later because it wasn't working. The New York Times is currently the most popular newspaper website in the U.S., with more than 17 million readers logging on each month. News Corp's Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Wall Street Journal, has been urging his rivals in the news business for years to start charging for their online content. He argues that the current model, providing content for free, is simply unsustainable. European state-funded broadcasters who were transmitting their Persian-language channels into Iran are protesting the Iranian authorities are knocking them off the air one way or another. Germany's Deutsche Welle Persian-language radio service says its signal is being jammed, and PTV, the British Broadcasting Corporation's Persian television service, has been dropped by its satellite, Hotbird 6. The company that owns that satellite, Eutelsat, is refusing to confirm that it dropped PTV after being pressured by Iran. PTV is popular with Iranian opposition leaders, one of whom accused Eutelsat, which is a French company, of siding with dictators. Jordan's highest court has extended the reach of a controversial print and publications law to incorporate electronic media. In the past, the law has been used to restrict traditional media in the kingdom. Now that websites have been classified as a type of publication, bloggers, journalists, even Twitter users who put their material online could face prosecution as well. The legal ruling has triggered a backlash in the Jordanian blogosphere, where many described it as a setback for media freedom. Agnes Calamard, the executive director of the free speech organization Article 19, said there's concern that the extension of the press and publications law will lead to wide self-censorship among the online media as writers and commentators seek to avoid heavy fines or criminal prosecution. An Israeli official has criticized his own government for failing to effectively communicate its message to the media in the Arab world. State Comptroller Misha Lindenstrauss said Israel's communications failings were particularly evident during the month-long war on Gaza that took place a year ago. Lindenstrauss said Israel's failure to get its message out to the Arab world had created a void that is being filled by Arab media outlets like Al Jazeera, which he accused of airing propaganda. Israel was heavily criticized during the Gaza war, and not just on Arab-based news outlets, for what was seen as a disproportionate show of force, as well as for locking most of the global news media out of the war zone until the fighting ended. More than 30 bloggers and activists have been arrested while on their way to Naga Hammadi, a small town in Egypt. They were headed to pay their respects to the families of the victims of a recent massacre that took place there. 7 Coptic Christians were shot dead on the eve of their Christmas Day, which falls on January 7th. Many others were also injured as they left the church after Mass. Following their arrest, the cell phones of all of the bloggers were taken away from them and switched off immediately, eliminating any chance of them contacting the outside world. Among those arrested was the well-known blogger and activist Wael Abbas, who has appeared on the Listening Post. According to the Global Voices advocacy website, the whole group has been released and is now back in Cairo, but is still unclear why the group was detained in the first place. We're back after the break with a report on the conflict between Google and China.